Hello and welcome to the CostX Coffee Break webinar series. This month's topic is housekeeping. My name is Herman. I'm a product specialist with Exactal. For those of you new to CostX or the product of CostX, CostX is a global leading estimating software. We offer on-screen measurement from all drawings that you can imagine, from a hand-drawn sketch all the way to a complicated BIM model. These measurements are live linked to our workbooks or your bill of quantities, and the software also has a very good revisioning capability as well as the BIM quantity extraction functionality. Last month's webinar was covered by Millen and covered the topic of linking 2D to BIM. Okay, he covered linking these 2D sheets or associated sheets with their respective BIM models and the subsequent drawing sets that CostX generates, focusing on checking and measuring and zoning the dimensions across these drawings. If you would like to view this webinar, you're welcome to go to www.exactal.com/webinars, or you can visit our YouTube channel called Exactal. This month's topic is housekeeping, as I mentioned, and just to give you a brief introduction of what I'll be handling. So even though we actually skim over most of these items that I will discuss today during our training, in reality, I suppose when you guys, or when we, I'd say we because I'm a quantity surveyor as well, when we hit the ground running and we try to implement a new software solution, we obviously don't get that leeway and additional free time from our clients to actually plan it properly sometimes, and our deliverables still remain the same, so they still require their pound of flesh that we need to deliver. So it can get a bit messy if everyone just starts plowing away and doing their own thing, especially when you're working on a network drive with multiple users, sometimes working on even the same building or the same project. Okay, I believe it is of quite high importance actually to keep CostX neat. It has its obvious benefits for all the parties involved. So today is really aimed at existing users who might be in need of a bit of a cleanup, and as well as our new users looking to obviously avoid this cleanup. Now, I am by no means a natural perfectionist, neither do I have any OCD tendencies, but as I said, I can definitely see the value in keeping your CostX tidy. So that's why I've decided on this topic, to really help you guys a little bit. Okay, the items that I will be discussing this month, first and foremost, is the projects and the building hierarchy and how to neaten that up. Next, I'll touch on the drawings, how to organize them with folders and subfolders, as well as renaming and utilizing the CostX built-in drawing register. And then I'll also show you the dimension groups and how to clean them up, simplify them a bit, with the emphasis on our one-to-many relationship, as we call it, meaning that one dimension group can obviously be linked to many items in your bill of quantities or your workbook, as we call it. Lastly, I quite like this introduction, this quote that I came across, called "A place for everything and everything in its place." I just felt it was quite fitting for the topic at hand. So without further ado, let's jump straight into a live demonstration of CostX and how to do the housekeeping. So when you start CostX up, as I've done over here, you will start by seeing this open window, open buildings window, as we call it, or select building window. Okay, the first point that I just want to touch on, and our first topic, is the project and building hierarchy. Okay, so CostX work with a project at the top and buildings attached to that project. Okay, to get further information about this, you can actually refer to one of our previous webinars, the earlier ones that we did, about setting up projects and buildings. That explains the process flowchart properly as to how these this hierarchy actually works, and as well as the different zones and the cost centers that the buildings can comprise of. Okay, one other item you'll see in this window, you start with your recent buildings at the top, and then at the bottom you've got all of your buildings. Okay, some people don't know this, so I'm quickly going to show you that. All of your project properties are in a heading over here for all of the column headings, and you can actually drag this. So by just left clicking and dragging that across, you can drag it into there to filter it by any of these columns, and you can then expand your buildings based on your project name and filter it according to that column. Okay, unfortunately, in terms of neatening it up, projects cannot be renamed. Okay, a workaround for this, however, if I cancel out of this window, the workaround would be to go to your system admin. So you click your main menu button, go down into your system administration, and select any project and choose to copy that project. Okay, when you copy that, it would obviously give you a chance to give it a new name, and then you can just tick the box to actually bring your buildings as well as your model maps across, and then it will bring across all of the items inside of this project, and you can click OK to create that copy. Okay, buildings on the other hand can be renamed. However, we just need to go and enable that setting. So again, we go to our main menu button, we click our CostX options this time, not system admin, so CostX options. And in our general setting, which should be selected, in our working options, we'll see here's an option here, and we need to tick that box to be able to rename our buildings. Okay, so after enabling that, we can click OK to cancel out of this. Yeah, so just a quick note that what I've shown here in terms of the actions is only available in a standalone version of CostX. So in a network environment, this would have to be set up for each user's individual profile. At the end of the live demonstration, I'll go into the system admin or server admin and show you how that is done for each specific user. And go back to our open window building, open building window, sorry, and select a building from here that we want to open. I'll show you how to rename that and how to access the building properties. Okay, so once we are inside the building, we can click on our main menu button again, and we can say show the properties and show building properties. And now you'll see that that is no longer grayed out, but you can overtype that with your new building name that you want to create and edit all of those property details over here and click update once you are done. Okay, further to that, we need to close out of this building first, but then in our buildings, in a similar way that we saw at the project, we can also copy a building. So by selecting a certain building, you can choose where to copy it to. So let's call it copy. And it will create a full copy of that building. Okay, so it will bring over the drawings, the workbooks, and all of it across. So having then created that copy, we can just navigate into open building again and go and look for it in our all buildings trade or window, and scroll down, and you'll see that there's the copy that I've just created. That's where I will access that copy. Further to that, when we have opened up a building, we can also choose to merge certain buildings. Okay, so if you've maybe got a few users that have set up their own buildings, you can choose to bring these buildings or collate these buildings within one project. Okay, so you choose to merge the building, and then you choose the building that you actually want to bring into the building that you have selected. So just as a example, let me choose any one of these. It'll ask you what revision you want to choose, and where you want to add it into. So I'll just select the newest revision, and I would need to choose what it is that I want to bring in. So do I want to bring in all the drawings and the dimension groups? I can click OK, and it will bring in all of those items. Okay, it does give you a warning though to say that you need to be sure that you're not duplicating any of the dimensions, because CostX, even though you have tools to check if anything has been duplicated or measured twice, CostX won't automatically delete them. They will all be brought into the same building. Okay, the next item on the list is the drawings. Okay, and cleaning that up and organizing that with folders and subfolders. Now you'll see I've got a few drawings that I've added already into an architectural and an MEP folder, and adding a folder is as easy as adding a drawing. So instead of just adding a drawing and not assigning it to a folder, I obviously would suggest that it is way easier to actually keep it in a folder. So let's suppose that I want to add a drawing, and while I'm adding these drawings, I might as well show you as well how to add multiple drawings at the same time. So instead of only selecting one and importing one at a time, by just using, well, or your control key to multi-select like this, or your shift key if they are in order and you need to bring all of them in. So you'll see here I've got a mix even of DWGs and PDFs, and I can then access those later and change their individual scales and or scales or calibrations if I need to do that. But I can import them all together. I can give them a prefix if I want, or for me I would just put them in a folder. So I'm putting these in a structural folder. Okay, you'll see as you start typing you have the drop down to choose if it's an existing folder, or you can just type it out and create a new folder. Structural, in this case, it will create that structural folder, and it has inserted all of those structural details for me, or structural drawings for me. Okay, I can then access them individually and go and change whatever I need to change of the individual drawings. Okay, furthermore, if I want to put it in a subfolder, so let's suppose that I started off with just the MEP folder, but now I realize that I'm actually only working on the HVAC and now the lighting has come in as well. You can just right click on the folder and click to change that folder name, and with a backslash like that, we'll add a subfolder. So let's put this in our HVAC subfolder. Click OK, and it will add all of those drawings that I've already had into a subfolder of HVAC. And now when I commence to add my lighting drawing, I can just assign it into a subfolder for lighting as well. Okay. Further to this, CostX also actually keeps a drawing register. Now you might have seen this a little bit earlier when I showed you those building properties. So how you would access this is by clicking on your main menu button again on the top left and saying show building properties. So come to the left and you'll see that you've got a tab on the right hand side, and over here you can now see all the drawings that has been added. Okay, later on when you're actually doing revisions, it becomes even more handy because it gives you a timestamp as well of when you have added it if you keep it intact. Okay, this is handled and updated, and you can copy this out of here. It's like a text file, so copy that and paste it to wherever you want. So if it's an email or a Word document or whatever. And to update that for a drawing, when you actually import a drawing, you'll see that there's an option here to fill out the drawing register for that drawing. Okay, and that would be the same for each drawing, so you can fill that out. I think it's just a good practice tip, so that you know when you receive which drawings, and CostX obviously registers that against the properties of this drawing. Okay, and lastly I like to show you the dimension groups, as I've mentioned. Now before actually going into the dimension groups, and this is true for both the dimension groups and the drawings, you'll see that here next to the column headings or the column names there's a little snowflake or asterisk, and if you actually click that, it gives you all the options of the available columns that you can choose to display. So on the drawings, for instance, I can choose some extra items over here. You'll see it adds those columns, and then when I actually go into the drawing, it shows me all of those items of the drawing. Okay, so that's the edit over there, and then the same for the dimension groups. You can choose to add a few extra columns if you want. So for instance, if I open up one of these, you've got your color icon on the right hand side, and you can switch that on and off at will like this. Okay, so the dimension groups, similar to the drawings, can also be filed under different folders, which is also easier to navigate through. And these dimension groups are actually handled as well in a different webinar that handles the adding. It's called adding and editing dimension groups. Okay, so just to how to set them up and what to do with them. My main objective today is to help you out to tidy these up. So again, with designating those folders, the same applies that applied for the drawings. However, to rename these, so let's say this is called GIFA and I want to rename this dimension group. You'll see if I go into my edit dimension group properties, it is actually grayed out originally. Okay, so I just need to go and change the setting again. So it's again main menu, CostX options. Okay, this time we navigate to our drawings tab over here, and if we go down a bit, we just look for the option under the dimension groups to rename our dimension group. Again, as I mentioned before, what I'm recording in the is only available in a standalone version of CostX. So in a network environment, this will be set up for each user's individual profile under the server admin, which I will show at the end of my demonstration. Now, if I go back into dimension group properties, I can see that it's possible for me to edit that dimension group name, and in the same breath over here I can edit that subfolder or folders if I so please. So just to show you, I've updated those two. I click update. It just says that if it has any links, it will obviously need to be updated in the workbook as well, because it's possibly referring to those names. But I'll just say OK, and you'll see there it's changed the subfolder from areas to area and the GIFA to just the GFA. So this is a very simple example, but just to show you how to do that. So as I've already mentioned, when we renamed the buildings as well as the dimension groups, these permissions or these availabilities will, as I showed you, is only set on the standalone. In a network configuration, this will be set under server and admin, as well as all your other permissions. Now, it sounds a bit hardcore to say permissions. It's not that we are allowing certain users to do certain stuff and others not. It's just really about the roles and the functionality that these different users would obviously bring to the tool and what they actually use it for. So it just avoids those conflicts and avoids different users actually deleting items that they shouldn't be, or editing items that they shouldn't be touching. Okay, so to do this, I'll just quick change over to CostX Server Admin and just show you how to change it over here. So under your users, obviously on a network configuration, you'll have, as an administrator, you'll have all of the options or all of your users over here, and by simply clicking on one of them and selecting the edit button, we can then see our top options over here is if they have the option to rename the building or rename the dimension group. So this is where we would set that setting for the users on a network drive, and then as well as all of these other permissions that they have. So deleting projects, deleting buildings, creating dimension groups, deleting the workbooks, deleting drawings, deleting dimension groups, editing reports, all of those items that you can see over here. So this is where you would then set these different permissions for each of your users, which can really benefit you in terms of your quality assurance and ensuring that they stick to what they should or stick to what they know, and you don't have to come and scramble at the end to try and loosen up or tighten up the loose ends. It will all be set by using this system or server administration. So thank you so much for joining me this month. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. I hope this has been a little bit helpful at least. So in conclusion, I believe there's a real benefit to use CostX neatly, and I would obviously really encourage this for all of our users. So set it up properly, and it would obviously even add benefit to the use of templates if you're using your buildings and your projects that you create as templates at a later stage. Even though it would require a little effort from your side, I think the advantages in terms of your quality assurance checks is quite obvious. And because CostX is obviously all about the collaboration and the teamwork, it always makes it way easier if all the users adhere to a certain guideline in terms of setting it up. So you can even potentially use some permissions and limit who can enter what. For further exploration or from your side, or if you want to read up a little bit more about it, you can also refer to the introductory manual, sections 3, 4 and 5 that handles with this topic. I've obviously also mentioned some previous webinars that handled some of the original setup of these items that I've discussed. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach us on our support line, so support@Exactool, or you can contact me. I'm based in Dubai, but regionally, wherever you are, you would have a local support number as well. So yeah, looking forward to our next coffee break and some more useful tips. See you soon. Cheers.